Hello and welcome to an open source live code hangout. We'll be working on the GeriLife Caregiving Project today. The code is available on github.com/GeriLife. You can see the link below the video here. I'll look if there's an issue available, some kind of a low-hanging fruit. Looks like we've got a duplicate field on the add work form. I can take a look at this, and as a follow-up issue, we might want to, at some point at least, create a fake data generator for the work reports. That way our demo project can really show the full potential of the project. So let's take a look. I haven't worked on the work portion of the app for a while, so we might have a little bit of different conventions here, but it looks like we just have a model and a model form, and we're just creating all the fields, showing all the fields for the work model. So that means we've got duplicate fields here. I think the idea is that hours should be derived from minutes, although it might be the other way around. We typically display the reports in hours, though. I'll have to think about it. But in order to be consistent with the activities app, we're actually collecting the activity reports in minutes. So I'm not sure why I added this. There was a reason for it, I'm sure. One of the problems, though, is having duration minutes and duration hours as fields could lead to inconsistent input. Somebody might accidentally say they had 90 minutes and 2 hours, and then which value do we use? So really, we have to make a decision here. Well, we're already using a positive integer field here. It's not too heavy of a computation to divide by 60 to get the hours. So I think I'll move this duration hours to a computed property. And we already have that here, in fact. So not sure what happened, why that duration hours field was there. It's all right though. Don't always know why. The key is that we can clean it up. And we'll make the migrations. No changes detected. Okay, I didn't save. Yeah, I was also sidetracked. I need to create a branch. This is a very small fix. That way I'll keep it focused. Migrate that in. Oh, I think there was a constraint on there. I see. So you could only, oh, I see. We were just wanting to make sure it was greater than 0. So we had a constraint there as well as a positive float. It was a bit redundant. Not even sure what was going on. So we need to remove that database constraint, then migrate that in, and we should be good to go. Oh boy, no such column duration hours. Okay, so what I think happened here is I basically applied a partial migration in my development environment, and I removed the column, but then not the database constraint, which was on a non-existent column. And then when I tried to remove the database constraint, it couldn't find that column. So what I'll do is I'll just roll back. I'll just delete these two. It's not really necessarily a rollback, but I'll delete these two migrations and we'll do those all in one migration. I just didn't notice that constraint was there. Now we should be good to go. We'll make the migrations again. Now we have both migrations in a single file, and Django can apply that. It's going to apply all the migrations. So no biggie. All right, so everything ran. We'll publish this branch, create the pull request, and I think that's about it. This is number 83. I'll sign myself. That's usually done in advance so I can signal who's working on this, but I'm the only active contributor here. And now we should have something popping up over here. Maybe if I refresh, there it is. We'll wait for our CI to run. There could be some tests that we're checking that field, the behavior of that field. It's been a little bit of a long day, so I don't think I'm going to take anything too heavy today, but I will create a GitHub issue. I'll just create a simple one. That should be good. And I'll just give it a couple of labels. I believe this is a good first issue because we have reference code. I'll link to that. But otherwise, I'll go ahead and consider picking that up. We have a management command here. It can be refactored, but essentially handles the handler here is just going to create all the data. It's a bit of a sort of a monolithic function, and has multiple levels of abstraction, so that's kind of, it is what it is. It got the job done. But now if we add work data here, we would have to consider how they would interplay and how to do it efficiently, such as using the bulk create method, which was previously the thing was taking like 5 and 10 minutes to generate all the data for, like, 1,000 homes or 100, let's see, probably 10 to 30 homes with up to like 1,000 or 5,000 records, activity records per home, something like that, which is not, a lot of data considering the scope at which this application has been deployed previously. So in a way, that was just because the way I had written the code was inefficient. It was iterating over the things and creating one item at a time. So learn a bit in the process of optimizing that. And the key is we need to think in the same terms with the work generation. So it might be nested within here, for example, the same way we did the residencies. And we want to do bulk create. So might look something like that. Work, bulk create. Yeah. In fact, I can, well, man, holding shift here. If I hold shift, it should let me select multiple lines. See, now it's working. Not with that line for some reason. It's like you can select the whole block, but not down to here. One more line. That's the line. I want this line. Jeez. Now I got it. Weird. Oh yeah, I could have manually edited it as well. So it's actually in column 9, column 69. It's like basically line 38 to 60. There it goes. A little bit of context there, a little bit of reference. Not as in-depth as our previous issues. I've been using ChatGPT to help me generate a few of these. Ooh. Oh yeah, it's mine. So code climate thinks we're good. Tests are passing. So I'm just going to go ahead and merge this. This was really a fast pull request. Quick fix. Cool. Maybe there's another low-hanging fruit. So we do have now a metrics app. Here, we'll call it metrics, so we know what that's for. But this seems like a non-trivial thing. It's involving refactoring and some very complicated analytical queries, but I'll label it nonetheless. Help wanted, and it's kind of like keeping the lights on. It's sort of an enhancement for maintainability. HTMX doesn't seem like a good idea to start into right now. I don't have a clear use case for it, but we might have some views where we want partial templates to swap based on user input, or like selecting a button, something like that. This dark light mode toggle, it's been dormant for a while. Let me just leave it for a minute. Create fake work data generator. IBM Carbon Design System. This might not be feasible. And I'm just like really tired. I'm not in a sort of mindset to, I'll have to dig into this on the weekend, I think. Now I remember the use case, and it's basically what we're going to do is load the resident page right away with some placeholder graphics and use HTMX to dynamically request those charts. All the code on the backend side is written. We've already got the chart generating code. It just needs to be popped out into what I guess would be they're just views, just Django views that return chart data or template partials. So there's a couple of approaches there, but I would at a baseline just create, one view per chart. So the URL scheme would be kind of interesting to figure out, but I think that'll give users a really responsive experience. They'll hop straight into the page because the chart loading does take some time, and particularly on the resident page, there's some optimizations we need to do. We need to audit those. One thing I can do is add, let's do this. Django-debug-toolbar. Let's do this. It would be nice to have it as only a development dependency, but that was too complicated the last time I tried that in the Western Friend project. So we ended up just sort of jettisoning the debug toolbar, although I don't think it includes too many of its own dependencies. I think it's relatively clean, so it might just be something we can keep around. It's a bit redundant. One thing I don't like is that when you have this template on GitHub, if you leave these fields blank, it just pops them in there. It shouldn't do that, really. It's kind of a half-baked solution. I think GitHub oftentimes feels like that. It feels half-baked to me. If even sometimes a third baked, it's like almost raw and not even integrated. They're like mixing different flavors in there that don't go too good together, or there's like started going one direction and like changed their minds, like almost ADHD development or ADD development, which I don't mean to be pejorative about that. I basically know what ADD feels like firsthand. It's literally like I'll start the project and then forget about it, and I'll start another project and this and that. So it really had to be like disciplined and try to just say, what's my one project I'm doing? And right now it's caregiving, GeriLife Caregiving. For like 5 years we were developing the Western Friend app, and I made the mistake a couple times during that period of starting other projects at the same time. So I literally making this mistake in recent memory, and it delayed our timeline. We probably could have launched that website sooner, but at the same time, well, it is what it is, and I learned from these other projects as well, and they were with Django, so I thought it was kind of like stacking functions. There was some interplay between them, or lessons I learned there might have helped the Western Friend project. Same with GeriLife. This is why we're really I'm going all in on Django across these projects. So anyway, let's take this task. Boom, there we go. Ready? Close out, clean the workspace, and this will be it. I'll just try one more little PR this evening and go and relax for a while. Installation. Now, let me remember, in this project, we're not using poetry, but we are using PyProject, but we're not defining our dependencies in there. I really would like to define dependencies in here with pip, but unfortunately it doesn't work. So I'm really going sort of primitive mode, just regular pip, nothing else, just pip and Python. Now I do have this dev py that sort of like gives us a couple things. It's like a makefile, basically. It's like a Python makefile where you define commands, but they're actually just in Python. So these are shell commands basically, but the definition is here in a Python struct. Kind of nice. I'm not opposed to makefiles, but since we got Python, and ostensibly all these commands would be run from in the Python environment, some of them could potentially run from the operating system Python environment, but it's not probably a good idea. But so here's what we're going to do. I could give myself an alias for adding a dependency, but we're going to pip add this. which is kind of leading me back to saying, what? I thought I was defining the dependencies here, but no, that didn't quite work, did it? We do have dev requirements, so this actually might be not so useful. Yeah, and see, this is copy and paste code. I should definitely remove them. So one problem is this primitive way of doing it is like it's very manual. And I can't distinguish my dev requirements from my production requirements. All right, well, I'll reassess later, but poetry started to become just as much of a pain, if not more than it was benefiting the project in terms of getting new contributors on, and sometimes a little bit of like friction in the poetry community from the maintainers, shown towards like hostility almost towards people who are requesting features, not myself, but bugs that I bumped into, or features that I would have perhaps requested, but other people were also needing that. So I would like to find a really simple way of just managing Python dependencies with just pip, and pip tools is the closest I found to that. I'm not going to go off too much further in that direction today. So we'll say install, and basically coverage is we're needing to use that as part of the dev dependency, but again, I can't separate those out. I might develop this dev.py into something more meaningful, and then I could say, perhaps have a function here to add a dependency and add it to the dev or requirements dev or requirements text at the end, and then sort them. Just text editing, so get the dependency name, version, and add that. And anyway, so basically building my own poetry in a way for very simple needs, though, just managing dependencies for a project. That's what I learned, is like poetry's main use case is for people who are publishing libraries, and we're building an application. So it turned out that some of the design decisions that went into poetry don't support application builders, hence a little bit of friction in the community. So now we've got it installed. Static files. So we'll go to our core, settings, installed apps, Django, contrib. Static files is there. And we've got a static URL. Sure enough, we do. Then ensure our template setting contains a Django templates backend. Sounds good. Looks like it. Looks like we do. Appders is set to true, and we've got an extra thing here for our. This was an interesting decision, but I'll go with it. Actually, I could move it, since common is an app, I could move that templates here to common templates. Then I don't need anything here. We should still, our base template should still run. Yeah, so that's a little minor cleanup while I'm here. So all I did here is just reorganize. Especially since I'm the only contributor here, but I'm gonna just clean that stuff up as I work. But even in my day job, I will try to make little improvements when I see them, but I understand the distinction and the importance of separating out sort of with large pull requests, separating out like formatting changes versus refactoring changes versus adding dependencies. I kind of get it. We do practice that, but it's not some kind of discipline I need to enforce on myself at this point. So debug toolbar, add the URL, and these can go in our core URL. we already have path imported, and it can kind of go here, I suppose. It's not super important, but I think I can put a comma there and a little better formatting so I can vertically scan these and see what's going on. See what's going on there too. Yeah. I think that's just a long line. So that's kind of why, especially since I'm usually live coding, but even reviewing on GitHub, I kind of want to have short columns, and I know it's not this is less than 80 columns, but I kind of like this. So we add debug URLs, the middleware now. Back in our settings, middleware, and where middleware is important, you should include the debug toolbar middleware as early as possible in the list. However, it must come after any other middleware that encodes the response's context, such as gzip. All right, encodes the response's context. What? Here encodes security. So look for gzip first. CSRF. Session is going to modify the context. Locale modifies context. CSRF pops that into context. Messages go into context. So I think clickjacking. I really don't know. I'll just put it at the end. But they say as early as possible. I don't know if this is a thing ChatGPT would know about. Give it the given. Given our middleware definition and the following our statement, the order of middleware is important. You should include the debug toolbar middleware as early as possible in the list. However, it must come after any middleware that encodes the response's context. Encoding is different than modifying, I suppose. Where should I put the debug toolbar middleware? Moved up. To correctly position the django-debug-toolbar middleware in your middleware list, you need to identify any middleware before it encodes the response context. Looking at your current list, none of the specific middlewares are known for encoding the response's content like gzip. Therefore, you can place the debug middleware as early as possible in the list. Here's how you can adjust it. It's at the end. All right, well, I get the idea. I trust it about 80%. I think this part is the part I trust. This part was an error. This places the debug after the middleware that does not modify the content, but still as early as possible. I'll just ask for clarification. Shouldn't we place it before the middleware that does not modify the content encoding? If so, I suppose it could be at the beginning of the list. Yes, you're correct. The debug toolbar middleware should be placed before any middleware that does not modify the content encoding. Since none of the middleware in your list is known to modify the content encoding, like gzip would, you can indeed place a debug middleware at the beginning of the list. This position allows it to capture and debug as much of the processing pipeline as possible. I'm just going to put this note here. As a friendly reminder, and in the link to the that. Now we need to configure the internal IPs. We're doing good. Oh, that's here. So internal IPs is not defined. I'll put it up near like the CSRF and allowed hosts, sort of like that. And I'll put it pretty early near the debug, in fact. And from what I know, it's an IP, so it won't be like localhost, what I understand. You can change the logic determining whether or not the debug toolbar should be shown with the show toolbar callback option. If debug, warning, if using Docker, the following will see your internal IPs correctly in debug mode. All right, so I think we're actually good to go. However, I didn't see anything about debug is true, so maybe it's just doing that for me now. Let's see if it appears. There it is. And if I just manually specify debug is false. So yeah, there's that. Maybe there's the environment variable set. Yeah, all right, that fixed it. All right, so we're good to go. That's it. django-debug-toolbar's installed, and it's not too invasive. Now what I'm gonna do is just make some fake data, create a super user, take a quick look. See how fast that was? That was really fast. I think we'll need a custom user model because I don't believe we're going to be using the username fields. So I'll just create a list for that. It's mainly a note to self, but I will label it. That's a good first issue help wanted. I think it's relatively simple. All right, so whoa. Now that we got some fake data in the super user, I can like go to the homes page after the server is running and log in. So now we have a home page with some data on there. I think I can start to get to know this. SQL 27 queries, quite a lot. Yeah, and part of the problem is our data model. So essentially it's a relational data model. It's not an analytical data model. It's a semi-analytical data model, but nonetheless is fairly performant. Here's a little bit slower. So we're loading the page. There's some optimizations we'll need to do here. Multiple queries. And this is where I think an initial step is just switching to HTMX and sort of lazy loading these charts in. That'll be the first optimization. I kind of want to stick with SQLite as long as I can, or even just Postgres. I don't want to go to an OLAP database or some kind of really complicated requirement and kind of keeping data models in sync and all that stuff. So I'm going to keep things really simple as long as I can in the development environment and in our production environment. The latency is not horrible. We're not suffering. And when we do have severe problems, we'll know more acutely where the problem resides. Then we can look at specific answers. But here we have 42 queries that power this page. And some of them are kind of slow, so there's an opportunity. And at least the user would have something in the page. Now here's the next level of slowness. Just checking out what else is here. CPU line. So it takes about 2.5 seconds to load this page. I forgot to add that button there. Just going to fix that right now, just while I'm here. It's such a small bug, I'm just going to fix it. So basically on the home page, I have residents, and we need a button here to view the resident. Essentially, if you click anywhere in that row, it should more or less take you to that resident page. So home, template, home detail has a table here. So we have a little chart up there, and then here are our current residents, and we have the name column, and to the left of the name column let me think here for a little bit longer. Okay, so there's just a column here. This is the column header, so of course it's a TH, not a TR. So that's going to mess up our table a little bit, but there we are. We just shove everything over there, no problem. We'll put another TD button. Oh yeah, href. Resident detail view, resident URL, item button. Let's see what that looks like even. Wow. Got it right. Now this page is slower, that's what I was trying to illustrate. Well, almost 3 seconds. So it's not unbearably slow, but again, if we just present the empty page really fast, Django can render that. And then in this area where the chart renders, there will be an HTMX callback. I think I would like this to be a bootstrap button, if it's not too much. And it's exactly what I was doing, button. Small outline primary. I guess those all look the same. Just a little wrapping. Because this is not a non-breaking space, so that space can break and wrap to another line. And we don't actually collect the whole last name, just the last initial for privacy reasons. All right, so that cleaned that up a bit. Not bad, not bad. And if I stretch this link, it'll only stretch to that table cell, so it's not really that useful. All right. So yeah, mixing a few things into the same commit, but into the same pull request. But not every change needs a whole Git issue to track. And essentially, we'll just say configure django-debug-toolbar. That was a pretty good one. So yeah, just testing some stuff out, testing out a new layout on the stream, and when we get some chatters in here, it'll make more sense. Then I have room now at the bottom of the stream to place some interesting things. I don't know what. It looks like we got a background video. There we go. Little things. Got some nice music in the background, GitHub link. I'll put a little GitHub logo and maybe a solid background under the text so it doesn't get, it's not hard to read. Cool, let's publish the branch. And what am I working on? I don't even remember. Which issue? Debug toolbar, assigned to myself. Okay, create pull request, number 93. So that's basically it. Day in the life, open source development. So now it should appear over here without refreshing, but somehow GitHub's not working right there. Wait for the CI to run. This is a new edition, and I don't have any unit tests on the home residence table layout, so nothing will be detected here by our test runners. I don't suspect the middleware would interfere with any of our other tests, but it can't hurt to let this run all the way through. So yeah, 1 hour session, not bad. A couple of pull requests, a couple issues open, a little bit of help from ChatGPT. I'll go ahead and merge this off stream, so then you don't have to wait and watch this little yellow dot. This has been another open source live code hangout. If you'd like to check out the project in progress, you can stop by github.com/GeriLife/caregiving. There we go, we got our green CI pipeline. And we've been adding issues, some of them fairly good first issues with either code that you can kind of copy and paste and work with, or maybe that are fairly conventional and don't require much knowledge about how our project works. They're just regular Django things. Yeah, so check us out on GitHub. Have a great day, and I hope you're doing well. See ya.